Hey everyone, and welcome to Decades Deep, the podcast where we rewind the clock and dive into the decades that shaped America. I'm Sage, and today we're throwing it back to the 70s, a time of polyester fashion, political drama, legendary music, and some of the most memorable pop culture moments in history.
That's right. The 70s weren't just about groovy tunes and sideburns. It was a decade of transformation for how Americans dressed, how they lived, and what they believed in, and even how they relaxed. So let's hop in our station wagon, roll down the windows, and cruise through everything that made the 70s unforgettable.
Let's talk fashion first, because in the 70s, people were not afraid to make bold style choices.
We're talking bell-bottom pants, leisure suits, tie-dye shirts, and platform shoes. And let's not forget accessories like mood rings and huge sunglasses. For hair, the bigger the better. Afros, feathered layers, and for like Farrah Fawcett and sideburns for days.
But lifestyle was more than just looks. Recreation was a big deal too. People roller skated, went to disco clubs, and played arcade games like Pong. Board games like Twister and Simon were also huge hits.
And if you wanted to sound cool, you'd say things like groovy, can you dig it, or right on.
Food was changing too. Fast food exploded, McDonald's became a staple, and things like Hamburger Helper, fondue, and Jell-O molds filled American kitchens. Music in the 70s, iconic. Disco ruled the artists like the Bee Gees, Donna Summer, and Gloria Gaynor. Rock was also massive. Think Led Zeppelin, Fleetwood Mac, and Pink Floyd.
And soul and funk weren't far behind. James Brown, Earth, Wind and Fire, and Marvin Gaye shaped the sound of the decade.
Meanwhile, on stage, Broadway gave us a chorus line and Grease. And in visual art, pop art and graffiti became powerful voices for urban youth.
In print, magazines like the Rolling Stone and Miss Magazine reflected a changing culture. And bestsellers like Roots by Alex Haley made history, both as a book and then later as a TV miniseries.
Politics in the 70s was turbulent. Richard Nixon resigned in 1974 after the Watergate scandal, the only U.S. president to ever resign.
Gerald Ford took over, and then Jimmy Carter was elected. It was a time of distrust in government, and Americans weren't afraid to say so.
The Vietnam War ended in 1975, but not before leaving deep scars on the nation.
Economically, the U.S. faced stagflation, a mix of inflation and unemployment. There were gas shortages, long lines at stations. People had to rethink their way of life.
Socially, people were pushing for change. The women's movement grew stronger. Environmental awareness led to the first Earth Day in 1970, and people were asking tough questions about equality, war, and justice.
If you were a sportsman in the 1970s, there was plenty to cheer for. Muhammad Ali made his comeback and became a symbol for pride and controversy.
In baseball, Reggie Jackson earned the nickname Mr. October with clutch postseason heroics. And in football, the Pittsburgh Steelers became a dynasty.
The 1972 Olympics were marked by tragedy. A terrorist attack in Munich shocked the world, but Americans still brought home medals and remained a strong contender.
Now let's talk tech. The 1970s were the beginning of digital revolution. In 1976, two guys named Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak built the first Apple computer in a garage.
The VCR became common in homes. Microwaves took over kitchens, and gaming consoles like the Atari 2600 introduced a whole new kind of entertainment.
Influential people of the time included Gloria Steinem, a leader of the women's rights movement, and Bruce Lee, who broke barriers in martial arts and Hollywood.
Without these figures and their contributions, American culture would look very different today.
The 1970s was a decade of contradictions, disco balls, and distrust, funk music, and fuel shortages, but it left a legacy that continues to influence how we live, think, and create.
Thanks for listening to Decades Deep. Be sure to tune in next time when we explore another unforgettable decade in American history.